Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all doing really super well today. Just to sort of continue down our path, which I think is going to be rather tricky today, we're going to start with Heinrich Böll, the clown, just in sort of a nod maybe to Trump's 2 cents worth in about it, it all be a shithole out there regarding these countries where people are fleeing and they are terrible places. And the clown is not about that. The clown is about a guilt-ridden son of an industrialist. It's a post-World War II book. It's an incredible book because it's about all this guilt that is heaped upon this post-war generation. And here, the father is this great industrialist and the son can only be an alcoholic clown and be a pantomime artist. He's broken inside. And, it's interesting that we aren't even allowed to say, wow, that place is bad or that place is good. It really lets you know how far down the path Franz Boas took us. And this is another German author, and I was really thinking about him and this book after just, the outbreak of everyone being so enraged about what Trump said. And I didn't realize this, but it had won the Nobel Prize for literature in its day. And I don't know if anyone's read this or not. I don't know if it's really seen that much anymore. But it's about a couple who want to have a child. They feel too guilty to have a child. They both, are perfectly wealthy. This is post-war Germany where they really got themselves back up on their feet. And so the whole book is this: yes to baby, no to baby. Yes to baby, no to baby. And they're always on these trips to the third world, where they have their discussions, and they'll be, and they pay more, kind of the worse the conditions are, the more it costs, or the more prestigious the trip is. And, so they'll be in India and they'll be staying, in a place that has absolutely, no latrine whatsoever, and they're paying a fortune, and they're in a house, full of, 10 million children, and they never really see their own sort of insanity in this. So it's rather interesting how now we're not even allowed to kind of speak of that which is so incredibly obvious and right before our face. It's very much the emperor's new clothes, isn't it? And sometimes I'm even, just leery to speak about things nowadays. I was going back and forth with a wonderful YouTuber here. You guys are all so great about weirdness going on in Olympia, and it was like, I don't even want to go near it. There's just so much strangeness with the floating dungeons et al. And so I kind of went back in time and realized that going back in time, it was not any better rave violence and things, but at least it's in the past. And so dare I go into this past where, and I was even trying to look for some pictures here. I found some pics. Here's one of my father, and it got really bad ant damage. Ants kind of walked across it. But that is him. Here's his mother. Here's my grandmother. She flew airplanes. Here it is, Seattle Airways. So it's always was odd to me when Evergreen came about, and I had all of these, I don't know, sour women telling me how oppressed I was. And I just feel like things have really gone downhill for women. I think it was much better when my grandmother was here. And she, did all kinds of fabulous things. So I had typed in 60s La Crescenta here. That was somewhere we had lived, and it's not coming up as good as it had a couple weeks ago. It's funny how things change. But anyway, we had, my father had been a minister in La Crescenta. Here's a little map of where it is. It's kind of in LA area. And I have had some very strong memories of meeting Charles Manson there as a child. I really felt that he babysat me. And that is like such a strange memory to have that I tend to not really talk about it too much. I finally brought it up to a friend of mine who was from that area. He's a real 60s guy. Doc, I think that I even have him on a couple of vids. And he was in the Vietnam War and things like that. And I did bring it up to him. I told him one day, I've never told anyone this, but I swear that I think that Charles Manson was my babysitter, although who knows, maybe everyone in LA looked like that at that time. But he said, you know what? I think he was at my wedding. Sorry. But I do remember we lived in this apartment complex. It was very plain. My father was a minister. We had just moved there. And it had a great big pool in the middle. And all the apartments kind of, faced the pool. Very plain. And my parents were getting invited to all kinds of wonderful, spectacular places, right? They were new in LA. Here my father is the minister of this kind of weird New Thought church, which was sort of pre-New Age. And it was a sort of golden time. I think he gave funerals for people like Granny on the Beverly Hillbillies or things like that. He just did, had this kind of wild job in LA. And I think that some of these people died later, and Dora from Bewitched went to the church, I believe, the Gunsmoke cast. So sorry that I'm not finding here. So we have these kind of places here anyway. I'm just sort of trying to get you into that. That wasn't what it looked like. So we're just sort of going through this passage of time, and the apartment complex. My parents were going out like all the time, and they found a babysitter for me. It was someone who was at the church, like a board member's daughter. And my parents, little did they realize that as soon as they left, oh my goodness me, it would, the whole place would just fill with people, and the whole pool would fill with people. And there would just be busloads of people, and it would just be this wild, crazy, huge thing. And it would happen quite a lot. And it's just, my mom finally told me, I did mention it to her, and, like as an adult, and she said, I had no idea that was going on. And finally, the apartment manager said, how much do I have to put up with all your crazy parties? And my mom had no idea. But I do have this just intensely vivid memory of this guy coming up to me and saying, nobody's paying attention to you, and you're the reason why everybody can be here, and playing a game called Green Ghost with him. I did look it up the other day and saw it. It's like a glow-in-the-dark game, and we went in the laundry room to play it. And no, I don't have any memories of any sort of molestation or anything, but God knows. I mean, that is like a really, really kind of strange, it's just a very vivid memory, which is odd to me, whether or not it was Charles Manson or not. But what was really strange was that Craig Carpenter, whose father had been a minister, a Unity minister as well, in California, and our parents had been good friends. He and I became little Facebook friends, and he was telling me that he had been dropped off at the Spawn Ranch, and I just about died when he said that, because he's just this very kind of normal guy. Like, he doesn't, make up wild stories or anything like that. And he said yes, that they had he and his sister had been given ice cream and then dropped off at the Spawn Ranch. And it was just a very kind of intense time. And I'm not sure, I think he said it had to do with something different, but this is kind of a funny, maybe slightly side thing. The Unity Church had something called Daily Word, and it was like a little booklet, and there was something nice for each day of the week that you could put out for yourself. And I don't know if anyone remembers in the 70s or 80s, maybe Ed Asner used to get on. And I think Ed Asner, I don't think he was actually Unity, but he would get on TV. Sometimes there would be a Daily Word before TV would go off. Remember in the old days when television would go off for a little bit, and they would have a Daily Word on there. And Ed Asner, I think he's actually Jewish, but he had toured the nation at one point to see what do people believe in, and he was kind of freaked out when he saw these weird cults. And then he saw Unity and said, well, at least they're a little more like the dictionary or something. But I still feel that there's sort of an insidiousness within them, and I need to maybe explore it more, and that's part of what these videos are. So I get nervous about them because it's not like I know this and I'm putting forth something, but I'm exploring too. I just have weird little pieces. So the Daily Word was similar name to the Daily World and the Daily Worker. And I remember hearing ministers talking about there was some kind of weird time when the FBI thought that maybe the Daily Word had something to do with the Communist Manifesto and the Daily Worker and the Daily World. But Craig had said no, it was something different, but he did remember this particular incident as well. And I was looking at where he was put, where the Spawn Ranch was, and there's another very kind of well-known Unity minister, and I think she is actually still alive in looking at this, which is kind of amazing. And her name is Catherine Ponder, and she is out of Palm Desert. And here's Palm Desert again. Here's some Palm Desert kind of 60s pics here. And I think from that he was telling me that it was near the Barker Ranch and the Myers Ranch, and that she has some kind of ranch or property right out there, kind of next to the whole Manson thing, our little Catherine Ponder here. And that was strange. And I do remember Keith Schoenheit was telling me that as well. And Keith Schoenheit and I were in Sunday school together in La Crescenta, and we met up again later in New York, and his father even came to visit. And his father, Bud Schoenheit, was with the DA's office. He was an attorney and actually gave what he called the girls chocolate, coffee, and cigarettes right after the arrests. And I remember asking Doc that, why would you give bad people who just murdered someone chocolate, coffee, and cigarettes? And Doc said, it makes people talk. Nothing makes people talk more than chocolate, coffee, and cigarettes. Your friend's dad was smart. So she wrote the Millionaire books, and she wrote The Millionaire from Nazareth. I feel kind of naughty now, but I remember showing a friend of mine that who was kind of a wild artist in Greenwich Village, and he ended up making a t-shirt called Jesus Was a Millionaire, and it had like Jesus with shades, hair blowing back, and like a pink Cadillac or something. So there is something a little bit eerie about the prosperity religions, and that was what my father ended up becoming a part of. My mom feels it was mainly probably just to get out of the Vietnam War or something. You know, he did it in the 60s, and you know, people did kind of go a little crazy back in the 60s, and they did do weird things to maybe not go to the war or go to the war or whatever it was. But I think more people wanted out than in with that. So this was a place where my main memories were of, I liked it there a lot as a child. I do remember liking it, but having horrible asthma, and we had to move from La Crescenta, and we went to Atlanta, and that was like going back in time or something. That was really weird to move from LA in the 60s to Atlanta in the 60s. Two different worlds. But anyway, thanks for putting up with this, because I feel like it's also strange why my friend was dropped off at the Spawn Ranch was because Charles Manson had an interest in the kind of New Age, New Thought religions that were going around. And so he knew my friend's dad. So I don't think Unity likes to talk about this. I'm not saying Unity's bad because he may have gone there, but it is just sort of strange and interesting, and sort of maybe just kind of a little bit of obscure archival stuff as we continue on. Thank you. Take care. Bye.